Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this work session of the Washington County Board of Education. We're meeting this afternoon in work session. We have one agenda item, and that is the discussion of our core values legislative initiative and watch list items for the 2024 Maryland legislative session. We met in work session on Tuesday, October 10th, to discuss our 2024 legislative program. And at that time, staff was asked to make some changes to the legislative program document as a result of the board's discussion. So this afternoon, we have the opportunity to review and discuss the suggested changes brought forth by staff in this new document. This afternoon, at our business meeting, we'll consider the adoption of the 2024 legislative program. So with that, Mrs. Ram, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, President Williams. And there's really two parts, I should say. One of the items we didn't discuss last time was also on tonight's business meeting agenda is also the appointment of individuals to the LRT. So let's first talk about the changes, and then I'll review board policy BJ with you, and we can talk about the appointees. So I went back through all my notes from the last session and really thought about and listened to what the each individual board member was saying and the consensus that was reached. And so the changes you have in front of you, I believe, fairly and accurately represent the requested changes. In listening to the discussion on the core values, first of all, I changed under the core values. I added numbers instead of those funky arrows so we knew what we were talking about. I know that's something we've been doing for years, but I made that change unilaterally just for ease of everyone's reading and my own tracking purposes. So under A3, maintenance of effort, in listening to the discussion about the funding growth and wealth equalization and hearing what the respective board members really were desiring in this platform, the last paragraph I deemed unnecessary given the first two paragraphs under the core values as well as the discussion points under priorities. So if there is consensus, I'd like to strike that third paragraph from A3, maintenance of effort.
Colleagues, do we have consensus to do that? Yes? Okay.
The next change is on page 2 of the document under B, local control, paragraph 3, voucher programs. I struck that from the core values and moved it to page 5, new paragraph G, under watch list. And given the discussion we had on vouchers, there was consensus as it's something we need to pay attention to, but there was not consensus as to what position to take. So you'll note language that says any change should be monitored to determine what impact, if any, could have in the school system. And if there is a bill that would have impact, we would certainly discuss it and determine if it's something we would support or oppose, depending on what impact, if any, it had.
Moving that to the watch list?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great.
Okay, and the last change is on page 3, legislative priorities C. The title was inflation factor tied to consumer price index, and really the discussion was the concern of do the funding formulas really take into account the cost of the goods, services, or needs of the student population. So I tweaked the language to say adjusting funding formulas to support desired educational outcomes. Really, we're required to follow the blueprint. And the blueprint dictates, unfunded mandates in some respect, what we must accomplish and the outcomes they're seeking. So really, we need to make certain there's funding for what they're desiring. So you'll see the tweaked language there, that the funding formulas of the blueprint for Maryland's future. Okay. The funding formulas of the blueprint for Maryland's future were codified into law during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and then followed by historic inflation, which is what we discussed last time, was a concern. The example was the cost of a Chromebook or some other technology for a student or some other textbook or other resource to help address inflationary pressure, To help address inflationary pressures, the per student allocations should be reviewed and recalculated annually to ensure the revenue allocations provided for in Blueprint for Maryland's Future are adequate for school systems to provide the desired outcomes as required. And essentially what that says is the discussion from last time. Are the funding formulas well thought out enough to cover what we're required to do under Blueprint?
Colleagues, we have consensus for this change?
Yeah.
Yes?
I have one thing.
Uh-huh.
On the legislative watch list, just a style thing, letter A, I don't like things that end in et cetera, so I just said after dual enrollment and any other matters covered by the blueprint.
Stan, where are you?
Page 3.
And any other matters
Page 3, under the yellow
under the
watch
legislative
list.
watch list.
And you
Last
want to do
line.
what?
Get rid of the et cetera and say, and any other matters covered by the blueprint.
The very last thing?
Very last sentence.
So it would say, all matters related to the Blueprint for Maryland's Future should be closely monitored for any changes that may affect implementation dates, funding, the career ladder, teacher certification, the teacher shortage, the accountability and implementation board, dual enrollment, and any other matters covered under the Blueprint.
Are we okay with that? Have consensus for that change? Okay.
And I will direct staff to make that change, and it'll be updated before the business meeting.
Great. So that takes care of core values, legislative priorities, and the watch list. And you wanted to talk a little bit about the formation of the legislative response team?
Yes, please. I apologize. Apparently I'm killing batteries in the microphones today.
Your energy is such that you're destroying the batteries.
Draining it. So policy BJ as school board legislative program, specifically under policy statement procedures B, the LRT will be comprised of the Board of Education president, at least one other board member, the superintendent, the chief legal counsel or their designee, and in no case will more than 3 board members be appointed to the LRT. Paragraph C says the Board of Education may, at its discretion, include the designated legislative representative on the LRT. This proposal suggestion I'm bringing forward for board consideration and reach consensus so we can move it to the business agenda is to appoint President Williams, Vice President Stauffer, Mr. Bickford, Superintendent, myself. It'll not be a designee this year, it'll be myself, and the legislative representative would be Mr. Edwards. Is there consensus on that? Or any discussion?
Is everyone okay with that? Yes? Okay.
That's all I had.
Okay. That's all I have. So if there's nothing further, then we can end this work session. Thank you.
You repeat it all, so you're on.